in terms of, say, someone who would like to kind of follow in your footsteps, and that's quite a good segue into this image, which I really love. And I think what this, for me, it represents is your personal perspective. And I think that's so important for people who want to pursue a career in professional photography, whether that's photojournalism or not, is that you need to find your own perspective on the world and what you care about photographing in the world. So I was wondering what advice you might give to, other photographers who are in the very early stages who might want to follow in your footsteps, whether that's into conservation photography or photojournalism in a news context. What advice you'd give to those photographers kind of just getting started now?
I think one thing that really helped me was learning to write, being a
Mhm.
good writer. I know that's not a photo tip specifically, but you have to be able to articulate why your work is important, to differentiate it from what other people are doing, and to be able to like say why your story should get funding. I mean, funding is one of the main roadblocks, I think, for people starting out. And so I think that's why a huge part of why doing stories locally, you don't have to be in Antarctica to take a good picture. But I also didn't make it to Antarctica until 10 years after I started taking pictures. So I think, learning to write and tell your story to funders or to pitch your story to editors. Otherwise, your photos are just going to stay within yourself. It's what you do with the photos that's important. I think one thing that was really helpful for me was in grad school, I had this amazing journalist who was a professor, Cynthia Barnett, and she
Mhm.
ended up becoming one of my really like a great mentor. But for our class, our environmental journalism class, we partnered with the um, local NPR station at University of Florida and got our stories published on there. So like having a way to get your work out there, you don't have to reach out to, the top magazines in the country. Like if you're at a university, there's probably some type of publishing outlet there. Partner with them. They're probably looking for content, or work like with your local newspaper or other like smaller magazines. It's just having some type of clips to show when you want
Mm.
to publish in these bigger places and pitch bigger projects really helps, because they'll ask for a CV or a resume and you're like, here's this picture I posted on Instagram. That's not as helpful. But I found like a lot of especially the smaller publications are looking for stories and images, and if it's local, like you are the expert on that place, so like don't feel shy about reaching out with your work and telling them, telling the story from your perspective, because everyone's got a story to tell, right?
Yeah, I think that's great advice because I think a lot of people when they're just starting out, I mean, they have these goals of maybe getting into the famous publications, whichever ones they may be, and
Yeah.
that's absolutely great. We all have those dreams, but actually at the beginning,
Sure.
it's baby steps. Just get a,
Yeah,
a photograph in a local magazine or local newspaper and celebrate that
totally.
achievement as your first step, and then maybe aim for something regional, and then maybe something national, and then maybe something international in the long term. You don't have to, just because you don't get your photos in National Geographic within the first year or two of your career, it doesn't mean it hasn't worked out.
No, 100%. And also, you don't have to feel like you need to do it all. I mean, I know I said to learn to write because that's pretty crucial to getting your photos places. Because even just emailing people, you have to be able to, like do it in a way that's professional, in a way that shows like the value of your work. But I think, you can also like make friends in the industry. Go to the conferences if you're interested in nature photography. Go to in North America, we have the North American Nature Photography Association. There's just the Society of Environmental Journalists. Like, go there and partner with people. If you want to do a story about something that requires underwater photography, topside photography, and a drone, you don't have to do all three. Like, work with a friend, like collaborate on stuff. The
Mm.
number of friends that I've worked with over the years, and it makes it more powerful, and you don't have to be the only photographer with pictures in the story. I think that's one of the most powerful things I learned. I think people feel like they have to be a lone wolf that does all the things. And I think that, yeah, working together can be more fun too.
Absolutely. I mean, from listening to your experiences and what you're describing there is that it seems that photography is often, a lot of it if you want to be a professional photographer, a lot of it actually isn't about the taking pictures. It's about,
Yeah.
learning the other skills. It's about networking. It's about developing story ideas. It's about using the camera as a tool to express something else that you care about in the world. And for you, it's your background in science, and you care about the planet and nature, and about using the camera to express that. But there are so many other things that go into being a professional photographer than just simply taking the picture in the moment. It's like everything else builds up towards that moment.
Absolutely. That's like the most glamorous moment, right? Like being there to get
Yeah.
the picture. Other than that, you know how it is. You're like on planes forever and your bags get lost and then the air conditioning breaks and that picture of the seal, like we were being chased up the coast by a hurricane and a lot of our expedition got
Wow.
canceled. I mean, it's just, there's so much more to the story than what it shows in the picture. And I think people have a hard time, I think, sometimes putting themselves in your shoes from how you're taking the picture, which is why I think stuff
Mhm.
like this is important to show the behind the scenes um, and yeah, show what goes into making the images because there is a lot, a lot, as you know, a lot that goes into it. And I mean, even like the Resilience Reporting Fellowship where you and I met, we figured out 7 years ago. I ended up working a lot with Laura Pattison, who was there, who
Mm.
ended up being an editor at HuffPost for a number of years. And so a lot of times it's just meeting the right editor at a conference and staying friends with them and pitching them your ideas and getting them to respond. And don't feel like your ideas are bad if you do pitch and don't get a response, because that's something that I think is really hard when you're first starting too.